world. With me now is a senior energy and environment researcher for Bright Blue, Joshua Marks. Hiya, Joshua. Joshua, why does the EU ban GM? Is it seen as dangerous? Is that the sort of myth around it, maybe?
So firstly, I just want to clarify, because there's a lot of different terminology, a lot of scientific words get thrown around, and I understand people can be quite scared. Currently, what the government has done is only affects plants and doesn't affect animals. And it only allows for gene editing to produce varieties of crops that you could have done already using traditional breeding methods. So the main thing it does right now is speed up the time it takes to get these varieties and to test them in the field.
Right, so what's the controversy around all of this then? Because to me it sounds like a good way of boosting food production and making us less reliant upon foreign actors.
Yeah, it is. And it's a very good way of increasing food security and helping the environment. And I'm sure we'll get onto the benefits later. But I can understand, like even the images you're showing on screen, it can be quite scary to imagine people sort of genetically messing with your food. But all the tests that have been done show it's incredibly safe. Other countries have been using gene-edited food for a number of years, and there's not been a single issue. So it is incredibly safe. And I'm glad the government, and I welcome the government's ideas to sort of test it further in this country to help face some of the problems going forward.
Describe bans on this sort of thing. Is this just Luddite attempts to stop the advancement of science and technology?
I can understand the concern people have, and I wouldn't call it Luddite. I just understand why people are apprehensive. And while I'm very for the technology, I think I've already made that quite clear, I do think we need to be safe and we need to make sure we slowly but surely understand the technology and move forward with it at a very clear, slow pace, step by step. We shouldn't rush to get it on store shelves as fast as possible, and I don't think that's what the government is doing. As long as we do the tests, make sure it's safe, and previous tests have shown it is very safe, I have no problem with it and we should continue. But I do understand people's concerns.
Would it actually help the environment then? How would this technology actually ensure that, we're not importing things from goodness only knows how far away?
So gene editing, as we've established, allows you to alter the DNA of specific crops. And by altering the DNA, we can create certain characteristics. So for example, we could make tomatoes that are more protected from certain diseases or certain pests. Currently, we use huge amounts of herbicides and pesticides on our crops to make sure farmers get to sell them at the end of the year. We can make it so they don't have to use those herbicides and those pesticides. That protects bee pollinators and other sort of flying pollinating insects. It prevents runoff into the soil and into the local streams and rivers. So all the biodiversity that is negatively affected by the need for these herbicides and pesticides, now they're protected because instead we've just altered the DNA of these crops and they're naturally protected. So we don't have to use these chemicals, protecting biodiversity and all the environment sort of surrounding these farms.
Okay, so then would you say then, given that you've just announced there that, of course it's right that we test this stuff and we see where we can get to with it. But wouldn't it therefore be fair enough, and many people might think it a reasonable proposition, for actual labels saying, look, this is gene edited, this food has been gene edited? Would you support those measures to actually give consumers the information and the know-how about what it is that they're putting into their bodies?
Yes, naturally. And I think most of us are very pro-consumer choice. I've explained the benefits, and I do think those benefits are clear to see. But as I said, I do understand why people are scared and might be slightly apprehensive, even though it is perfectly safe. I would happily support sort of labeling gene-edited food, just so people are informed and have that choice. Right now, for example, if you go into the supermarket, you get a choice between organic or non-organic. I'd be perfectly happy with gene-edited food sort of fitting a third category, just so people get familiar with it, can see the benefits for themselves, can see it personally, and see how it's helping both the environment and food supply in the country. And then maybe we can talk about the labels again in 5-10 years, once people really become familiar with the technology.
Okay, we'll end it there. I'll let the viewers at home decide whether or not they're pro-GM crops and foods being brought into the marketplace. But that was the Senior Energy and Environment Researcher for Bright Blue, Joshua Marks.